Today we're going to be learning how to not give a
1, 2, 3, funk it.
Hi, I'm Maddie. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to the car ranting series. As you can tell, I'm on the passenger side of the car today, and that's because the lighting in the driver's seat was trash. It's not spectacular over here. In today's video, I'm going to be summarizing and teaching you everything that I learned from the book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a. For the first part of this video, I'm going to be explaining what the problem is. The main problem is we are presented with too many things to care about. We're expected to care about getting good grades. We're expected to care about our appearance, how popular we are, how many followers we have on Instagram, how fast we are when we run, how fit we are, how much we can lift. There are too many things that we are supposed to care about. We cannot care about all of those things and put our best foot forward in every single one of those categories. What's really important to understand are your values and your metrics, which is what you care about and how you measure your success in those areas. For example, some good values would be choosing to be a kind person, being open and honest. Bad values would be caring about how many followers you have on Instagram or how popular you are at your school. Basically, good values are things that are 100% and totally in your control. You have total control over whether or not you are nice and honest to people. You have little to no control over how many Instagram followers you have and how popular you are at your school. Again, you can have some control over those values, but they're still not good values. Yes, you could increase your chances of having more Instagram followers by putting out good quality content, but at the end of the day, you have no control over whether or not they press the follow button or not. Whereas if you're a kind person, you do have 100% control over how you treat someone. Next, we're going to talk about metrics, which is how you measure your success at your values. Let's say you've picked a bad value and your value is having the most Instagram followers. If you choose to compare your amount of Instagram followers to Ariana Grande, you're always going to be disappointed because she's the second most followed person on Instagram. Whereas if you just compared your amount of followers to the amount of followers you had last month, then you're going to see that growth and be much more happy with the results. Basically, when it comes down to metrics, you don't want to be comparing yourself to other people. I know people say that all the time, and it's much easier said than done. I think at some point in our lives, we've all compared ourselves to someone, but that's something that you want to try to avoid at all costs, because chances are it's not going to make you feel better about yourself, or you're just going to be putting someone else down. Much better metrics are comparing your current self to your past self. So again, using the bad value of Instagram followers, if you compare how many followers you have now in July to how many you had in February, your success is going to be much greater than if you compare it to Ariana Grande. Now let's take that same example with a good value. How do you measure kindness? I would say not putting a set number on it, but just doing your best every single time to be kind to people. If you know that kindness is something you need to work on, then maybe in situations you need to take a step back and think, did I treat that person kindly? And then, I don't know, keep a journal if you want to and see if you're improving on your level of kindness, but come up with some way to measure your current self to your past self so that way you can see actual results and be much happier with your improvement. Now I'm going to move into the meat of the video, which is giving you all some tips on how you can do that. You can sit here all day and talk about, okay, I need to care about less, I need to care about good values and have good metrics, but how do I achieve that? The first thing that I want to discuss is you need to accept what you have and work to make it better instead of wishing for more things. For example, let's say that you only have 3 friends and you keep wishing, oh, I had more friends. Instead of wishing that you had 15 friends, work on developing those 3 friendships and satisfy your want for more friendships. Because chances are you can probably get everything that you think you could get out of having 15 friends from those 3 if you really focus and work on developing those friendships. There's literally no point in worrying about what you do not have, so why waste your brain power stressing over what you don't have when you could be using that brain power to better what you already have? Next is that happiness is a struggle, so you need to find what is worth the struggle. I am happy when I make good grades, but it is a struggle. I am studying for hours on end, doing tons of homework. It's not fun. However, in my opinion, that struggle is worth it because I'm putting in the work to get those good grades, to get into a good school, to get a good career. For other people, that is not worth the struggle and they're like, what's the point? So they choose to care about other things. YouTube, I would say, is a struggle. You know, you're constantly having to come up with video ideas, find time to film, edit, keep people entertained, interact with your audience. It's not just a walk in the ballpark. However, I think that all of those struggles are fun and I don't really see them as struggles, which I think plays to the old adage that if you do something that you love, you'll never work a day in your life. So if you find what's worth the struggle, you will never be struggling. Some pain is essential for figuring out what is meaningful in life. What I mean by that is you're going to have to go through some things that show you, oh, how many followers I have on Instagram really isn't that important compared to this. And that'll really make you question your values and help you understand if your values are correct or not. So for example, if you're put in the position of doing homework or making YouTube videos, and let's say the first time you choose making a YouTube video, but then you start failing that class, well then that's going to change your perspective and be like, okay, next time I need to choose to study for the test because that's going to do better in the long run, and missing one upload here and there isn't going to do that much damage to my channel. It could be as small as that or as big as someone important in your life dying and you realizing, oh, spending time with family is even more important than studying for the test. We must solve problems in life to be happy, and playing the victim does not help you here. Again, the example with the test. You have to put in the time, the work to solve the issues, understand what you don't understand to get the result that makes you happy. And playing the victim of, oh, I have this and this going on, so I couldn't study, that doesn't help you achieve happiness. You're not going to be happy sitting there complaining about why you didn't do well. You'll be much more happier if you put in the work, solved the problems, and got there. Again, this goes back to enjoying the struggle. This is going to be much more beneficial for you if you're enjoying that process of solving the problems to reach the end goal. And this is why goals that have a clear endpoint are not satisfying. How many times do you hear YouTubers say,
oh, I'm so grateful for 1 million subscribers, but it does not feel as rewarding as I thought it would be?
That's because there's a clear endpoint. They don't have the mindset of continuous growth. I want to be growing by X percentage each month. They just have an end number in sight. So once they hit it, they are done. They're just kind of like, oh, they have nothing else to work towards. What was motivating them before doesn't motivate them now. That's why, again, important to have good values. If you had the mindset of, oh, I always want to be constantly growing on YouTube, then they're constantly working towards that goal of growing, and it's going to be much more fulfilling than hitting a number on the screen. If you're just sitting there playing the victim role and not actively working towards solving your problems, you're never going to be happy. You're just going to have unsolved problems. Again, like I just said, I had written down that by choosing good values, they will motivate you, and if your values, aka goals, don't motivate you, you have bad values/goals. This next one is so important. You're responsible for your emotions regardless of whether or not it is your fault. One of the examples that really stuck out to me in the book was this guy emailed Mark Manson saying, hey, I really don't agree with what you're saying. My son died in a car wreck. How am I not supposed to feel upset by that? It's not my fault that I am in a constant state of depression. I didn't ask for him to die. And I was like, okay, this guy has a good point, but so does Mark. Basically, Mark is saying, yes, that's really unfortunate that your son died and his life was taken so young, but even though that wasn't your fault that he died, you're still responsible for how you feel. Naturally, you're going to be sad and depressed, but how you bounce back from it, that's all up to you. Whether or not you choose to grieve and lay around the house for 2 months, 2 years, 20 years, it doesn't matter. Or the next day you get up and go for a bike ride and continue on with your life and do the best to make the most of it. Regardless of the situation, how you react to it is 100% up to you. Basically, this is saying that your attitude is everything, and this is something that my mom says to me all the time because sometimes I have the tendency to not have the greatest attitude, but all it's saying is have a good attitude because your emotions, regardless of the situation, are your responsibility. This next one is hard for me to understand, and it's that being wrong is okay. Basically, if you react wrongly in a situation, it's okay, because next time that situation happens, you have the opportunity to come back, act differently, and grow from the situation. Whereas if you act perfectly in every situation, you're going to be stagnant. There's no way for you to improve yourself. Failure makes ideas seem less scary. I think we all have it built up in our heads from the education system that failure is not an option. However, if you fail at something, trying other things doesn't seem as scary. If you drop out of school, starting your own business doesn't seem as scary. Whereas if you stayed in school and graduated with this degree, decided not to use it and start your own business, it's a lot scarier. If someone is better at you than something, they have failed at it more than you have. If someone has had more success on YouTube than you, they have failed at it more than you. Take Haley Pham, for example. She's been on YouTube for almost 10 years at this point, I think. And obviously it's very easy for people like me who look up to her to be like, oh my gosh, she's so successful. She failed at YouTube for like the first 6 to 7 years of being on the platform. Most of us haven't even been making videos for 6 to 7 years, let alone posting them on YouTube for 6 to 7 years. So while she is way better at YouTube than me and probably most of the people watching this video, she has failed at it much more than me and most of the people watching this video. This goes down to an even closer point. If you are unwilling to fail at something, you are unwilling to succeed at it. If you're unwilling to post videos that flop, you're unwilling to post videos that go viral. Freedom grants the opportunity for greater meaning, but commitment is meaning. If you never tie yourself down to a career or a place, yes, you're leaving the options open for any career or living anywhere. However, you are not leaving the door open for deeper meaning in those fields. If I just move around all the time, I'm never getting to truly experience that place. If I live in LA for 3 months and then move to New York for 3 months, then London for 3 months, I never really get to experience LA culture and see that all the city has to offer. Where if I just picked LA and stuck with it and lived there for the next 30 years, I would get to learn so much about being in LA and what it means to live there and everything the city has to offer. So while freedom, yes, it grants you tons of opportunities to do whatever you want, the way that you're really going to get meaning out of life is picking things. Being an environmental architect in LA and seeing what that gives you. So many more things than if I moved around job hopping, living everywhere. And a lot of people really struggle with the decision making because the more options they have, they feel like the more doors they're closing. But if you make a confident decision, it's the right one. If you choose LA without a doubt, then LA is the right decision for you. And don't even worry about the other one. Because again, like I said earlier, why waste your brain power worrying about things that you don't even have? My last tip for y'all is to really think about this. Life is too short to care about anything that's not important. Like I just said, why would you spend 10 years living in LA wondering what your apartment in New York could look like when you don't even have the apartment in New York? There's literally no point in worrying about what you don't have. And I think that's where a lot of people screw up. That's why I truly think that being a minimalist is one of the most important things that people can do for themselves, because it teaches them to only care about a few important things and not about everything society forces you to think about. Now, a few little other important tidbits of information from the book. The mass media, news, social media makes life look spectacular and glamorous. And in reality, life is average. I'm sorry, I do not post boring days on my channel most of the time unless if I'm struggling to come up with content. But the fact of the matter is, larger creators and news stations are just going to report on the glamorous aspects of life. If you are letting that lens skew your perspective, then please keep in mind that you're using a bad metric. You are comparing yourself to others, which, like I said, do not do that. I think we all know that understanding emotions is important, but Mark laid it out in a super clean way. First, you need to understand what, why, and then the standard. So, for example, if you feel unpopular in school, then you would identify what that feeling is. Feeling unpopular. Then, why do you feel unpopular? Because person X, Y, and Z have more friends than me. What is the standard? You just answered that. You're comparing how many friends you have to how many friends X, Y, and Z have. Again, don't do it. You're likely to do things that reinforce your identity and avoid things that challenge it. So for example, I'm a very academic person at school. So at school, I'm very likely to do things like beta club and student council that reinforce the idea. And I think a lot of people get put in this trap of only doing what they think that they need to be doing to preserve their image, aesthetic, when in reality you should just be doing what you want to do. After a while, things don't seem so special. This comes down to what I was saying with commitment. Sure, country hopping sounds super fun. It's going to be really fun for the first like 10 to 15 countries. Once you get to country number 50, you're kind of going to be over it, so stop chasing the high. Then the last little thing I picked up in the book was that if there's no reason to do anything, there's no reason not to do anything. This comes down to my lovely procrastinating friends. If you think that there's no reason to get started on that homework, the point of the matter is, then there's no reason not to get started on the homework. Again, it's all about perspective, people. All about perspective. Basically, if there's anything that I want you to get out of this video, it is that you need to be choosing good values and goals for yourself and measuring them in an appropriate way to where you're not comparing yourself to others. I don't care how else you measure it, as long as you're not comparing yourself to others. If you're comparing yourself to others, it's going to be really easy to get down on yourself and not see growth. In my opinion, the best metric to have is comparing your current self to your past self. But again, find a metric that works for you. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Comment down below any other car rants you would like to see. Be sure that you're subscribed and have the bell turned on so you'll be notified every single time I upload a new video. And all those things really, really help my channel grow. I'll see you in my next video. Bye!
I said it before and I'll say it again. Life moves pretty fast.
It's not about personality matrixels and charts. It's all about the bumps in your heart.